at the end of the day, it's critical for the CISO to figure out exactly how they are going to consider the home lives of executives, how they're going to figure out that as a risk point, both the executive, the family, all the rest, and how they're going to figure out how they want to protect that. Criminals are increasingly targeting employees at home, especially high-profile executives. And the CISO needs a new battle plan. They need to understand how they can protect the company by protecting their executives, the board members, and key personnel in their personal lives. And we'll walk through some real stories on this, talk to you about what we're seeing and all the rest. A little bit on me. I see so many names that I recognize, but obviously CEO and founder Black Cloak. I lived in Arizona from some 2001 to 2007. Where I actually started back in 2002, so a full year before SB 1386, one of the first national law firm practices, practicing in what was really network security, cybersecurity, cyber liability back then. Of course, now subsumed by kind of data breach practices at a little known law firm that was down the road there called Lewis and Roca. So as many of you will remember, and many different other rules there in Arizona. After that, I was over at the chief privacy officer for the third largest bank in the world, the Royal Bank of Scotland. So I headed up as the chief privacy officer, headed up privacy and data protection. And we had what everybody wanted, phenomenal opportunities to guard against, protect against cyber criminals, thieves, nation states, as well as insiders, and all the different things in between. And then 2 different stints as a CISO. And a few different classified and cleared roles across the many years, some of which folks will remember from Arizona, and then beyond at DHS. It's interesting. It's interesting when we talk about the evolution and what we've been doing and all the rest. And really, it's kind of the building upon the past 24 years of privacy, law, risk, cybersecurity, and good technological know-how. That Black Cloak really exists, that we've taken these items and put them together. So without further ado, what we're going to do is talk about the executives being the major unsolved point of risk within organizations, not as it relates to their personal device or as it relates to their corporate devices. This is kind of the secret in here, is that you had 1,000 vendors, 10,000 vendors, 100,000 vendors, lining up to go ahead and protect the corporate devices, the servers, the corporate devices, and executives, even when they are there within the company. We do none of that. We protect them during the other 50%, where there's nobody protecting your executive or their family. So let's actually talk about a little bit about what we see. So, at work, traditionally, you get it. The cybersecurity team, the IT team, the folks that are there, they're actually protecting the executives within the 4 walls of the company, right? They have their hands in terms of their physical devices. They're protecting executive devices. They're ensuring that there's a safe operating network. They're ensuring that the company issues them a VPN for when the executive is remote. They're monitoring their email and have anti-spam controls in place, BYOD programs, monitoring the deep web and dark web. And at the end of the day, they have all the right things, the firewalls, IDS, IPS, proxies, dual factor. They have all of these different items that are being brought in, and they have a team there that is to back up the executive, that is there, that is focused on not just the executive, but all employees, but most assuredly, right, like in terms of business email compromise, is somebody else masquerading as the CFO, somebody trying to, go ahead and spoof an email address from the CFO's personal life, or trying to spoof an email from our company. They have those controls. But at home, it's a massively different story, right? The executives and their families still pose a risk. They pose a risk because of what they know, what they have. They pose a risk because of their reputation, because of the name, because of the finances. They pose a reputation also because all those items are there. There's no real safe zone for hackers. There's no safe zone basically saying, hey, you can't go ahead and hack the home. There's no honor there, right? It's a path of least resistance. Why am I going to hack in through $800 million worth of cybersecurity at the corporation, as opposed to hack the $50 router, the $100 router, the misconfigured home automation system? The family still faces those same sophisticated threats, not just based off of criminal organizations, based off of normal cybercrime, but also based off of nation states. Large number of financial and biotech companies have their executives coming back and forth between home and work. Well, we already know that based off public reports that folks are looking at, other nations are looking at COVID-19 research. You don't think they're going to say, no, 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 no. We can't target the executive at home. That's kind of unfair. And we can't, target little genie over there in terms of their publicly facing email accounts. All that we have is the ability to target the executive when they're at work. Everything else would be unfair. No, fuck yes, right? They're going to go ahead and target them wherever they exist, whatever is easiest for them. And they're going to do so, right, in that home environment. They're doing so because, look, at the end of the day, executives use the family devices with no protections. They are able to go ahead and get, right, the cyber criminals are able to go ahead and get information from data broker websites that they can use for social engineering, right? They're able to find the husband or wife or significant other's email addresses, phone numbers to kids. It doesn't matter. You can go ahead and hack a 12-year-old if you're going to get onto the corporate or onto the home network, and then go ahead and move laterally there. The networks are actually wide open. They're wide open because of, well, many different things, right? Home automation, right? So CD dealers that are installing without passwords or with default credentials, home control systems, the IoT and camera systems that they have, especially for corporate executives. These are $10, $20, $30,000 IT systems that are implemented at home. And really at the end of the day, it's hey, is it all green lights? Is it fast? And is the person out of your house as quickly as possible? That's all that actually is known. Cybersecurity is not a part of this whatsoever. Personal email, social media. Now social media, I don't even have to go into. Right? It's like, how many more weeks do we need of, hey, Twitter account for this person was hacked, Twitter account for that person was hacked, this person is now offering more Bitcoin freely available. It just, right, it keeps on happening, keeps on coming. In terms of, right, botnets being able to take over the home routers of families and actually exist and persist there in the home network, this is huge. This is absolutely huge. So we know, right, that the list of weak points there at the home is just endless. There is, right, very, very easy ability to actually target the executive at home. Very easy. It's something where the battle, sometimes they say that, look, it's the home is the new battleground. But really, in essence, the battle's been ongoing. It's been going on for years. Some of my earliest cases there in Arizona actually involved individuals impacting their home back when it was good old war driving days of kind of 2001, 2002, 2003. Get to grab the old net stumbler and all the rest, and can you get into the Wi-Fi network for an executive type of thing? And we handled some of those issues and interesting legal issues then. But the fact of the matter is that this is happening. It's always been happening. And it might be a thing where it's like, yeah, we haven't really seen it. Well, you haven't seen it because you have no controls there. You have no controls there because, well, you can't. It's their personal life. You can't have controls over the non-executive, the kids and all the rest in those devices. You just can't. But the battle's been ongoing. What's interesting is that we actually have spent over 3 years studying this attack vector. And it breaks down to really a few different high-level things. First, that the executive persona is intertwined with that of the company. So the simplest example here is, Jeff Bezos is Amazon. Amazon is Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk is Tesla. Tesla is Elon Musk. It just is what it is, right? There's no real separation there. And the same thing for many of our largest, right, Fortune 100 to our Fortune 1000, 2000 companies. Those, 3 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 executives, there's no way that they're getting out of, right, their identifier as you work for Northrop Grumman, you work for GE, you work for Microsoft or Amazon, whoever you work for, right? You are inextricably intertwined. Right, executive board members and personnel often, we're going to say it the nice way, they often get around your controls with SneakerNet. They often get around controls with the USB drives. Yes, they still are doing that, but even more so, just forwarding things to the Gmail account, going ahead and emailing each other off the Gmail account. The board members, especially, right? You set up a whole board deck in a encrypted board book on iPads that you show out to a board. But then what do the board members do? They talk back and forth on AOL and Hotmail and Outlook and Gmail accounts that don't have dual factor on it. And they're exchanging things about M&A and other deals there on there. And so despite all the good training, despite all the good efforts that auditors are putting in, that CISOs are putting in, we still have the fact, and we still have the situation that CISOs just can't, right? You just can't deploy endpoint software onto all the personal devices. You can't go ahead and just control their personal lives. We still have the ability for, right? The ability for and the risks in this attack vector still occurring, right? They're absolutely still occurring. And the numbers actually tell a great story. So our internal numbers, right? Our own Black Cloak internal numbers show 39% of our corporate executives that we onboard, right? 39%. So if you say, hey, we got 10 executives, it means 4 of them. And say you have 20 executives, it means we have 8 of them. They are compromised at time 1. They have open cameras, home automation systems, or have malware actively on their devices. 4 out of 10. 75% are actually leaking data, right? Just literally leaking data off of their personal devices, personal laptops, phones, tablets. 69% of them have exposed passwords that they didn't know and are 100% accurate. If you just say they knew about them and weren't necessarily 100% accurate, that number would go up into the high 80s. But 69%, 100% are right there in terms of freely available passwords on the dark web and actually active. And 87% of our corporate executives no cybersecurity whatsoever on their tablets and mobile devices. Really, really, really scary statistics when you take a look at it. And the fact of the matter is, we know that the home is the new attack vector. We know that the home's always been the attack vector, but other people, right, say the same thing and have been. So the Verizon data breach incident report, back from the 2020 version, which of course was compiled in 2019 pre-COVID, right, said C-suite executives were 12 times more likely to be targeted, and 71% of those were related to financial motivations, both financial motivations inside the company and sometimes financial motivations outside. I will tell you right now, is that in this pandemic, we have never, ever seen a greater percentage of clients have unemployment claims be filed on their behalf, or have other types of identity theft and home loans and other types of quick loans, lower level loans be sought and requested and actually distributed to those same executives. I mean, it's really quite comical. We just actually had the CEO of one of our banks, top bank, literally get filed for unemployment, right? He didn't do it, right? It's just there are no controls, but they are absolutely, right, the highest level authority targets. They are big targets, and they are constantly being mined for intelligence, for information. What types of things? I mean, look, we all know what's at stake here. I mean, whether it is your key executive, and I do want to say this is, whether it is your highest facing, publicly facing corporate executives and board members, don't forget key personnel. So, for example, at a Raytheon or at Honeywell or wherever, it's not just the 20 people that are on the faces that are on the website in terms of corporate executives, C-suite executives. It's also key personnel, right? The head of R&D, or the number 1 and 2 of R&D, the number 1 and 2, maybe it's a corporate development group. Maybe it's the people that actually run the missile program from Raytheon and are actually in charge of that from a product release perspective, or in charge of the new radar system. I mean, these are different key personnel and folks who we all know, right? Look, nation states already got the OPM data. They're going to target who they want to from those companies based off of clearances, based off of risk, based off of things that they can take from there, mix it with data from Equifax, mash it together, and go ahead and try to create good attack packages there. And what they can get from these folks are, right, obviously confidential information and trade secrets, definitely employee data, intellectual property, and also, right, try to bring down other systems through malware as well, right? We all know that these are things that are at stake, but you can't do it alone, right? There's absolutely no way for you, the CISO. When I was a CISO, there's no way to do it alone, right? It's kind of the impetus for Black Cloak and why Black Cloak exists. There's no way to actually do it by yourself. There's no way to, in a single phase fashion, say, hey, I'm the CISO. I'm going to protect everyone, all the executives in their personal lives. I'm going to protect their spouses, the kids, all the rest. You just can't do it for many different reasons. First and foremost is you might be able to put a BYOD on their phone that they're using for email, So great. You make sure there's a password on the phone. You make sure it's not jailbroken. Sometimes if it's an Android phone, right, you make sure it's encrypted. Okay. You make sure that the emails are separated. All right, makes sense. You make sure that the calendars are separated, right? If they leave, you can go ahead and nuke the emails, nuke the calendars, and it doesn't impact their phone whatsoever. Those are all great, but you can't apply BYOD policies to their personal computers that are more invasive. You can't apply them to the spouses, the kids, the children. You can't go ahead and monitor them through and through with endpoint security software in terms of their personal devices. You can't go ahead and show them and teach them how to put, literally with them, looking over their shoulder, how to put dual factor authentication onto their bank account, right? I mean, the first thing you see is how much money they have, right? You can't see that stuff. You can't go ahead and bring those personal life items into the purview of the company for privacy reasons, for legal reasons, for employment reasons. And you really can't go ahead and take things that are in the corporate sector and just willy-nilly apply it into the personal lives of these people. You will not reach success there. And obviously, you're going to meet with a lot of disdain and a lot of friction, right? But there are other things that you can do, right? There are other things that you can do to kind of move this along. And so let me quickly pause there just for a second, see if we have any burning, desiring questions that people have. If not, if so, just unmute if you want to and shout it out. If not, we'll go on to, really how we go ahead and create a new model for this.
So I'll throw one out there. I'll be
there we go.
I'll be that guy in the crowd. Where do you stop? You started first with executives. Then we said key people. Where do you draw the line? Because what you're talking about, where I could have that potential, breach, I'll use that term for lack of any other, could be the guy that, he's just the guy that works the hourly wage turning the knob, but he could be the one that allows something to come in. So where do you draw that line? I mean, I understand what you're saying, but again, the bad guys don't always target the top. I mean, as a bad guy, when I play bad guy, I don't go after admin rights. I don't go after executives unless they're what I need to accomplish my mission. I may go after somebody that's, a nobody, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact of the matter is that cyber adversaries are going to choose path of least resistance. They are going to still launch phishing emails against anyone and everyone at the company. They're still going to mine LinkedIn for open source intelligence. They're still going to try to find out, right, if they can, get a list of all the people at the company and try to figure out whose passwords are on deep web, dark web, and try to go ahead and hack them. What we're talking about is something that's very, very different, very, very specialized in terms of the biggest risks are going to be the ones that are the most public, most out there in terms of the company, in terms of the corporate executives. They're going to be the people that people associate with the companies. And in many cases, they're going to be the people that have that greater access. But it all has to be reasonable, right? It has to be something that's risk-based. We have some clients that they protect, right? Over 200 persons that are part of their C-suite team and what they consider to be their executive leadership team. Obviously, these are Fortune, right, 500 companies that are approaching in on the 200-person mark type of area. But for them, they're going to define that differently. They're also going to define it in an ad hoc manner based off of other threats, based off of other risks that their internal folks are worried about from a threat intelligence model. So it's very, very unique and very, very different. But what we have seen time and time again is that those folks who have their mugshots up on the website, who are the most visible, who are in the SEC reports, right, who have the biggest facing footprint, are the juiciest. Not necessarily from a external pen testing perspective, vulnerability testing perspective, and all the rest, right? You can always go ahead and target an individual and try to get into their personal life or try to get into the company. But oftentimes, what people are doing is they're walking around and jiggling the doorknob on the executive team because they have the biggest profile, the most to lose, sometimes the most access, even though, right, we all know that people are targeting, right, those administrators that may or may not have good privileged access management types of things behind them. But most often, right, they're actually looking at targeting the executives. And this whole new, right, work from home, remote work has just thrown gasoline on it exponentially. I mean, when we're talking about 40% of our executives that we onboard are already compromised. Their data is already being mined. They're already putting the company at risk. It just is mind-boggling. But look, at the end of the day, you want to go with a plan that is actually going to be right-sized for you, the organization, the risks. And there's some organizations where it might be a lower number, right? It's all dependent upon you, the side. I shouldn't even say just right, like you, the company, and the risks and all the rest, but also the sectors that you're in. We see very, very different treatment on that. And we also see different companies expanding based off of what we find. We can do aggregate reporting at time one only on here's the before shot, here's the after shot. And that's eye-opening experience for many companies, and the plan kind of moves on from there. But it's all kind of belt and suspenders in terms of what else folks want to add based off the perceived risk. So yeah, good question, Eric. Other questions? And if not, we'll.
Yeah, I got one for you.
Yeah, I can't see.
It's Rich.
Perfect. There you go.
That last year. Do you find that there's an increased interest in things like the lower level financial and legal teams below the C-suite, the people that are on the SOC reports, the people that are on the financial reports that don't necessarily have their mugshot on the website?
So let me answer it in terms of the two different areas. Actually, I'm going to add in a third just because, right? I'm a lawyer, so I got to add in one more. So finance, we do see the CFO being a big target. We also see traditionally the comptroller types of folks that are in that area being big targets as well, and companies choosing to protect them in their personal lives as well. Once again, people get protected at different plans. So there's always, right, who do you want to protect? And then at what level do you want to protect them type of quotient. So we do see that there. On the legal team, we always see, right, the general counsel, and then usually the number 2 is being protected. But then usually, it just depends on what the industry is, we'll see the person that's like the head of intellectual property and the corp dev person, so the M&A person being targeted as well. Usually we see that, well, I shouldn't say usually, it's almost all the time we see that, especially within like aerospace and defense and within pharmaceutical, biomed, biotech, life sciences types of areas. We see that heavily, really, really heavily. We're starting to see it a little more in financial, but banks are a little bit slower on the, sometimes a little bit slower on the M&A train and use a lot more external resources. But we're starting to see that there. The other interesting area where there's a lot to be gleaned from is HR, and we are seeing the expansion beyond, right, the chief human resources officer or whatever your equivalent like a number 1 is, into some interesting other areas there as well. So these are good, easy ways into the company, and so we do see further penetration within those groups. Good question. All right, we'll move it on a little bit. So at the end of the day, it's like, what do we do? How do we go about this? Like, what do we actually do to tackle this risk? I mean, it is absolutely a risk that exists. It's always existed, and it is becoming even more penetrated, even higher level now, and especially, right, 2020. So, I mean, the only thing really going about this is to create a model that basically combines all different things, right? It is combining cybersecurity and privacy and business risk and joining it together. It is actually taking those individuals that are the corporate executives, board members, key personnel, and protecting them in such a fashion that actually gives you, right, the peace of mind, both them and you the peace of mind. I like to say we're protecting the other 50% of the day, right? So the CISO, the CISO goes ahead and protects, right, what is happening there at the company in the 4 walls during normal working hours. But beyond that, they aren't doing it. And so it calls for a different model. It calls for a model that's more modeled off of concierge healthcare. So within most corporations, most companies, and Eric, this will even add further kind of fodder into your question. Within most companies, right, it's like 1,000 different employees. All of them get, Blue Cross Blue Shield. Did you all know that the executive team has, right, executive benefits, right? They have the Platinum American Express card. They've got the access rights into the private jet. They got the access rights into all the different airline lounges. All of those things come as perks that they negotiate, right? They have a few other different perks in there. One of them is actually concierge healthcare for many of them, right? It is usually executive physical once or twice a year. These are the big whoop-de-doo physicals where they basically drive them into the Mayo Clinic in the morning. You get there at like 7 a.m. You stay until 7 p.m. And every single doctor known to mankind comes and pokes and prods, and you did all the blood work ahead of time. If they see anything, you can go for the CAT scan, the MRI, the blood draw. You do everything, right? All right there. They help you work on your diet, all the different things together. Basically, because the executives are too busy. They don't have enough time in their day to be able to do that. That's offered to those executives, the ELT members, the SLT members, the members of the C-suite. That is an executive benefit that is part of concierge healthcare. Many of them also have concierge medical providers, which we all kind of get more as the norm there, where they don't have to wait in line at the doctor or wait 2 weeks for an appointment. They just get in, period. This is a model that we've adopted in terms of concierge, cybersecurity, and privacy, right? That's what Black Cloak is. It's a concierge, cybersecurity, and privacy protection platform for corporate executives, for board members, for key personnel, right? Driven by their role, we go ahead and protect them in a way that makes sense for the company. Like the company with the CFO of, I don't know what it is, CFO for whatever company, Acme Widgets in Arizona. Yep. The company wants the CFO to maintain a good health, to be alive, not to die. They do a great job with M&A and with all the other things that are CFO responsibilities. The CFO himself would like to kind of stay here on this planet and not pass. And hopefully we keep our fingers crossed. Their family wants them to be alive as well. This is very similar to, right, concierge, cybersecurity, and privacy. Want to make sure that their digital life is protected, their entire digital life protected in privacy, cybersecurity, their homes, and their overall peace of mind. And so this is a model that we introduced, and it's a model that we introduced several years ago. That's a holistic platform. It's built on, right, the best from a corporate perspective with zero friction to the end user. So we actually protect, and this solution protects, right, their privacy. How do you do it? We'll get into the details, but basically lock down all the leaks of the public information, their personal information in public databases and forums everywhere possible. Their devices, you're actually running and managing all their personal devices, cell phone, tablet, computer, everything. Their homes, literally pen testing, vulnerability scanning, attacking their homes every single week. And the peace of mind. This is any question under the sun regarding cybersecurity and privacy gets answered by cybersecurity and privacy professionals. We help you do a myriad of different things, which we'll go into in the next slides here. Protecting their privacy. So think about it as like these 4 concentric circles, right? Privacy, devices, home, peace of mind. So protecting their privacy means that the executives have their credentials scanned for on the deep web, dark web, and actually given to them, provided to them, right? So they actually receive their credentials, they have the shock and awe value, they understand that the things are out there, and they change them. Removing from the data broker websites their personal information. So this is all legal, right, for these companies to collect, but removing it, once again, just mitigates and minimizes the attack surface from a privacy perspective and a cybersecurity perspective. Then theft and protection and monitoring is an easy add in here. But then actually having, if you're familiar with like CIS benchmarks, actually having in hardening standards for corporate executives in their personal lives that allow them every single app, every single use of every single device they have, but actually making better privacy choices that they didn't necessarily know about. And it's making sure that you do it in a way where there's no monitoring of traffic, no DNS, no IDS, no IPS, no proxies, none of that. You can't see their traffic, can't see what they're doing. You can't see any of it. Not that you collect it and you protect it and it's, super duper encrypted. No, you just don't collect it. You don't need it. Don't collect it. Second, protecting their devices. So that's protecting their privacy, protecting their devices. This means enterprise grade monitoring and remediation for every single device, cell phone, tablet, computer, in an easy to way format and in very easy to understand, as it relates to them. And you can kind of see we continue the mantra on our devices, right? This device, right? But it's your privacy, your home, your devices, right? Your privacy, your home, your devices, kind of your peace of mind. You know where you stand with regard to every single device that you have and every aspect of your life. And, You understand that as it relates to every single type of piece of malware, botnets, command control systems, whatever it is, being protected, being remediated by a team. Protecting their home. I love this one. If I could do any other job within the company, I would sign up immediately to be on our attack teams, our offensive teams. They literally sit there and they hack into people's homes all day long, both manually and automated, right? There's always a person behind the scenes. That's where the real magic begins. We know the homes of high net worth individuals, corporate executives, and all the fun toys that they have. It is a great area because they're leaving them wide open. Sometimes no passwords, sometimes open ports, sometimes listening mode, sometimes fully active. Our IoT devices, they buy everything and put everything in. And what we're able to do is see threat intel on their IP addresses for their homes. And that's the fun part. They can actually see different attacks at different homes. We can see where infrastructure has fallen down. And then protecting their and really your peace of mind, right? As a member of the information security team, it's not just about us. It's not just about the executive. It's about you. Making sure that you know that they are protected. Making sure that you know that they're not going to call you. I can't tell you how many times as a CISO that I had a board member ask, hey, could you maybe help out a little bit on the side? Could you maybe take a look at this? Or an executive, hey, what are we doing in terms of our home networks? Can we go ahead and monitor this, monitor that, or my wife needs this, or is our network safe? This is one of those things where it should be and must be offloaded from your to-do list, from your team's to-do list, in terms of you must be able to confidently say, hey, we don't have to handle it, right? Someone else is handling it. It's just like the Mayo Clinic. All that you do is you say which 20 executives need to go for the executive physical. Mayo Clinic checks them in, says, hey, we got 18 of them that came by, right? That's $10,000 a pop. Here you go. Send us a check for $180,000, right? Just like concierge medicine, able to address any of the open issues, able to go ahead and report, able to do threat briefings for larger companies, able to really protect it in terms of the peace of mind. And what's interesting of how we do it, you can't do it in a manual fashion. If you were to do it in a manual fashion, the fact of the matter is you'd be there with the executive for, some 6 to 8 hours. That's never going to happen. They have about 30 minutes. We have about 30 minutes of their lives that we can go ahead and onboard them. Right after that, it's easy, right? We can go ahead and take care of them in little 5-minute pieces here and there as needed. We find a huge amount of phone calls and emails coming back into us in terms of lots of interesting questions. But look, at the end of the day, you have to break it down to kind of different areas, right? Essential cybersecurity and privacy means concierge the whole way, advanced device protection and monitoring, home network scans, deep web, dark web scans, basically every aspect of their digital life. Enhanced privacy means that we're removing all of their information from data broker websites, hardening their devices, identity theft monitoring, and removing them from common different types of list management systems. Enhanced cybersecurity is, that we're doing the full-blown scans, botnet scanning, lost device recovery assistance, even helping out with encrypted password safe training and dual-factor authentication. For many of you, you're going to say, Chris, I bet you that everyone can put on dual factor. No. We'd like to think of it that, hey, look, the executives can go ahead and do this type of stuff. In many cases, no, they can't. They don't have dual factor on their Gmail. Corporate secrets are on there. They don't have dual factor on there. So we know they don't have dual factor on their social media because every single week a new account is hacked there, right? Have somebody go ahead and do it with them and for them. Have it be through a proprietary platform that eases their pain, is friction-free, and gets them from a 5% cybersecurity up to a much, much higher level. Gets them all the way up there so that their private life, their personal life is protected, and you can continue worrying about the four walls within inside the company. And right at the end of the day, you don't have to necessarily be that individual that is going to have to worry about and negotiate the home environment. Not a good place to be. Not a good place to be. And we've got stories. We've got tons of stories out there in terms of where things have not gone so well, in terms of executives that have come on, what has been discovered. We've got extortion. We've got ransom. We've got kidnapping ransom. We have physical threats. We have stars. We have there's a little bit of everything here in terms of what we see. But at the end of the day, it really is that, hey, about 4 out of 10, super messy, really, really horrendously messy. We just actually had a incredibly famous individual who's actually coming out and starting another new company. You guys would all recognize the name. All 16 of his cameras for his family, because they are kidnap and ransom risk. He's a very big business leader. They've been online for 3 years, and we actually know they've been reviewed. So his 3 different pools in the backyard and all the rest, all been reviewed, been on the internet, been looked at. He got them because he travels a lot and wants to protect his family. And in fact, they've caused a gateway back into the home and into the private life of he and his family. So with that said, really thank you for listening. We definitely have some time for questions. If you have any questions, look, follow Black Cloak on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Learn more about what we're doing. Wish I could have been there in person with SDSUG. Really appreciate John's invite. I appreciate being able to come here and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing, but more so the soft underbelly of cybersecurity as it relates to the corporate executives and what we see there. But happy to open it up and take questions. Just give me if you would, just give me your first name. So I at least know who we're talking to, but happy to open up for questions.
So this is John, just briefly. I think what you're outlining, every company, large company's got to tackle the problem, whether they do it through an organization like yours or they do it in some fashion internally. Where you see large companies that are choosing to figure out to do it themselves, is it all over the map as far as how close they are to hitting the mark?
Well, you should. Yeah. So we see them not doing it well. For a few that we've seen doing it, you really can't do it because there are legal and privacy issues there. Just think about it this way. Let's just say you were to be monitoring the home network in some form or fashion, which we don't do. We don't collect any URL, domain name, DNS traffic whatsoever. Very special, very proprietary in what we're doing. So we cannot collect it. We don't collect it. We don't sit in line. What we usually see is someone will throw up an old Palo Alto or, throw a Fortinet out there and kind of be like, oh, okay, we configured it and this one's safe. Well, the problem is that you now are spending corporate dollars protecting the executive directly. If they were to happen to a site that they shouldn't be on per HR policy in their personal lives, what do? You now are spending corporate resources. Does HR policy apply? Does it not apply? There's a whole bunch of nonsense there. Can you go ahead and protect them? Can you protect that home network if Junior's on, if Sally, if Lucy's on, if Luke's on, whatever? The answers are that you can't legally do that. It's just like the healthcare thing. You don't want to do it. You shouldn't do it. You can't do it, but you can still get them the professional help that they need. We have yet to see anyone, anyone do it well. We just were on with a very, very large, I'm going to call them top 20, although they aren't, aerospace and defense firm, where literally the CEO says, yeah, I'm not on that device. I'm not behind the Palo Alto. I just put it up the computer on my home network because I like to sit outside and sit at the kitchen table, and it's not in my office, and I don't want to jack in or cable in. It just, the company thinks that they're being protected and they aren't. And that's very extreme cybersecurity for a leading company. More so than not, what we see is this huge pain point, nobody doing it. CISOs and especially Director of Security Operations continually being asked for help and assistance, people not wanting to touch it. And unfortunately, not good numbers coming back in terms of the exposures. Yeah, good question, John. Others out there?
So Chris, it's Rich again. Curious on what kind of, I also want to say failure rate you might have or might see for executives that, after all the protection and all the concierge work that you do, they still behave badly. Let's put it that way. And how do you deal with stuff like that?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, people are human. We've had individuals get phishing emails, texts, smishing messages, texts on their phones, where it's like, clearly I'm going to make up, Acme-bank -12345.com, right? That's not really where Acme Bank is. It should be acmebank.com. And we've had them go ahead and send out money or put in their password or give them the authorization code for dual factor. We actually have had, we had one CEO actually respond to a phishing email and give them their entire 1Password password. Literally the whole thing, like the secret key and the password to the 1Password instance. And behind there is their 100 passwords. Now, what we see though is, right, that's very, very few and far between, because what the executives don't want to do is communicate in with the internal team. They're very successful individuals, very astute business individuals, but they don't want to show, quite honestly, they don't want to show a weakness on the cybersecurity and IT front, right? They don't want to show that they don't get it, so they don't ask the questions. They don't ask the questions and they don't get the information. With us, we don't care, right? We honestly don't care. We're non-judgmental. They forward their phishing emails to us. We detonate them. We tell them whether they're good or bad, even if it is a pay-pal.badguysinrussia.ru. We walk them through everything, and we'll do it again and again and again. And that's what they appreciate. That's what they love. They appreciate, right, not being not judged, being in a place where they can ask questions. And as a result, what we've actually had happen is that they go back to the CISOs and say, hey, can you roll out this program internally, right? We can't tell you, like, a password safe is one easy example, where literally people have had, entire budgets granted to them as to roll out a encrypted password safe for the entire company, all 20,000 people of the company. This is amazing. Let's get trained on it. Let's this, let's that. Let's roll it out because I want mine installed on my work computer and you guys have to do it. So we've seen it flow the other way. But look, at the end of the day, people can make mistakes. But luckily with the system that we have in place, we're there as the safety net to catch them. Yeah, good question, Richard. Or Rich.
Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions?
Yeah, I got one for you. So this is Elio. I'm going to be on the next one.
Elio. Okay, perfect. Good.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of kind of proactive stuff, a lot of scanning, a lot of the usual. Do you do anything with hardening systems?
Yes.
And I would ask, if it was not executives, if it was engineers, like switching from Windows to Linux, any kind of like phone OS updates, like do you do anything, and has that worked or has that failed?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of questions there. So do we do any hardening of systems? So we do. So when we find, let's just do an easy example. When we find, I don't know, a person has Palo Alto at home. When we find a weakness, when we find a port that is open, or when we find that home automation has something that is open and add issue there, we will go ahead and write the email as to what needs to be said to the IT provider, right? They're the ones that have undergone and done the whole CDA home network as to what needs to change. Once they say they're done, we will go back and re-pen test so that we know that they are safe and do weekly differentials. So that's like one example there in terms of things. As it relates to updates and patches, updates on computers, right, is more an IT function as opposed to, right, the concierge cybersecurity approach that we have. Doing that remotely is not really wise. We set up our folks to actually be able to do it with the knowledge that they have in terms of normal updates. Macs, pretty easy. Windows, pretty easy. Sometimes bigger issue there is don't update based off of failed updates. And we're really good at sending out notices to people ahead of time of, hey, turn off the auto update on this one. This is not one that you want to not to have.
For clarification though, not updates, but system, not just hardening an existing system, moving to more hardened systems. For instance, Cubes has really strong isolation.
Yeah, so with our population, that isn't something that they really ask for or demand. So we don't find people wanting to go into the Linux area. We don't find people wanting to go into off the beaten path operating systems that are maybe more secure and that are more hardened. People want good functionality. So for example, said differently, like just on a phone, if you gave someone a phone, they're going to want an iPhone or an Android device. They're not going to want a hardened BlackBerry, smartphone. They're not going to want an encrypted device. They're not going to want something that is so off the beaten path and so hardened that it is unusable for them. And the same thing on operating systems for their normal computers. We are not finding executive teams going off in those routes, even the CIOs, the CTOs, and the CISOs that we protect, because we protect them in their personal lives, and sometimes they're the most fun. They think they're the most secure, but sometimes they're not there. So but we're not really going off and doing full blown separate systems. Yeah. Good question. Other questions?
Okay.
All right.
Well, cool, Chris. Thanks so much. I think that was a lot of value to the group and just so much to think about there.
Yeah, no, not a problem. Oh, I don't know. Hopefully everyone. Yeah, I was about to say I haven't been paying attention to chat, so hopefully there were other things in there. But thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Good questions, great audience. And if you do have any questions, please feel free email the team info@blackcloak.io. Let them know where you came in from. I'll let our head of sales marketing kind of know, and in that way, someone on the incoming team can take a look and make sure it gets to the right person. But great to be here in front of you and see a lot of names that I recognize. So that's always very, very nice. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. All right. Bye now.